Welcome to the Student of the Game podcast, where I sit down with successful entrepreneurs to extract the knowledge you need to increase your income and avoid simple mistakes. You learn from their failures so you don't have to go through the same thing. I hope that you find one thing that can change your life in this episode. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for tuning into the Student of the Game podcast. I am Tim Stone here with our special guest today, Christian Osgood. Christian, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Tim.
Christian is the multifamily strategy guy. We're going to dive into that, what that means. But Christian, thank you for being here. Tell us what you will tell me. Yeah, there's no us. Tell me, what do you do?
So multifaceted, but at the end of the day, I am a multifamily real estate investor. We have a few other assets, a few other companies, but the core business is we buy and hold multifamily properties. There are only two things I care about when looking at a acquisition. It is how do I own it, and how do I never lose it? As long as we can answer those two questions every single time, you can buy and hold anything profitably. We do that on long-term, cash flowing, fixed rate debt. Rinse and repeat those principles, and you get paid every time you buy anything.
So how can you own an asset?
Well, you have to figure out the deal first, and then figure out the debt and the equity, assuming that you don't already just have the cash. Deal, then debt, then equity. Now, what some people do wrong, and I think a majority of people do wrong, is they worry about the money because they don't have the money. So that's the scary part. So what a lot of people do is they'll try to raise all the capital first. I believe that's backwards because it's going to limit the type of deals you can do. Certain deals only work with different capital structures. So I figure out what is the actual opportunity. Say there's a 12-plex down the street from me. I don't know what the right debt structure or the right equity partners are because I don't know the price, the terms, what the other party wants. I don't know what the deal is. So you start the deal. That's step one. Find someone who wants something other than the property. Could be price, could be terms, could be they want to have a note to pass on to their heirs, could be a tax benefit. Who knows? But you figure out what does the other party wants to do. You put together a deal that hits your objectives of owning the property, and then you structure the debt and equity so that you can have long-term fixed rate cash flow.
Okay. So say you find a deal at 10-plex.
Yes.
And you want to buy it. What if it's not for sale?
That is fine. I've actually, contrary to most people, I've never asked someone to sell a building before. So my method, there is a 10-plex I want to buy, and I want to buy all the multifamily in my market. I invest in Grant County, Washington. So Moses, Quincy, Ephrata. When I find, we actually did this. There's a 10-plex that we bought not that long ago. We just launched a YouTube video on it. On a 10-plex, I'm going to call that owner, and I'm going to tell them a little bit of my story. This is like a 45-second thing max.
How do you call them?
So,
where do you find their phone number?
Yeah. Okay. So this is awesome. So everything that you want is on Google. I don't do any skip tracing. There's no mass marketing. This is a direct to owner approach. I look on Google Maps, this magical map that has every single property known to man. I look in the residential areas around where I want to own for the longer roofs. Longer roofs usually means
bigger buildings.
The building. It's just simple, right? 10-unit building, like the one I just bought, it's 2 side-by-side 5-plexes. You can't miss it. It's in a residential neighborhood. 2 long buildings with a parking lot. And you're like, oh, wow, there's 10 parking spots there. I wonder how many units there are, right? Very simple to find on Google Maps. You take that address, you put that into the county assessor. Every county is a little bit different, but the core data everywhere in the U.S. is basically the same. You can look up who the owner is. If it's an LLC, you're going to plug it into like Open Corporates or any other free website. But with 2 or 3 Google searches, you can find what's the property address, who owns that address, what is their phone number. It's like 3 searches. I also have a YouTube video on that. It's like one of our most watched ones of all time because it's really that easy. You can do it for free. We'll look it up, give them a call, and I will share just a teeny bit of my story. So when I started, especially if anyone listening, that's like, this is how you would start. I had a duplex in that market. Call on a 12-plex. Hey, I'm your property neighbor right down the street. Just wanted to reach out and say hello. Okay. Well, what do you want, Christian? Well, trying to retire my wife, actually. She's a teacher, teaches kindergarten. COVID hit, and my 10-year plan to retire her is now moved to a she's definitely not working here next year. And one duplex at a time is not going to fix that. I was curious how you got started on a 12-unit building. I don't know how to play the game that large. And people will usually get defensive here because they're used to people asking for the sales. Like, well, I'm not selling. Excellent. I just bought a duplex. I don't have any money. That's not a problem. I wouldn't know how to buy it. That's actually why I'm calling. I want to know how you got into the game so that I can build a plan to do what you have done. How did you get started with this 12-plex? That is how the conversation works. Do I buy the 12-plex or the 10-plex that I call on every time? Absolutely not. What I do is I build relationships with everyone in that market. My favorite piece of math on my model, because I think it's the easiest way to buy real estate, most consistent. 1 call a day during the weekdays. So 5 calls every single week. If one person of those 5, so 20% success ratio, picks up the phone, talks to you for a little bit, and books a coffee meeting, you will meet with 52 owners in your market every single year. If you communicated in 45 seconds or less what your goal is and why it's important that you reach your goal, and you spend the rest of the time learning about how they built their business, you're going to do 2 things. You're going to learn exactly how the players in your market built their business, which you're going to apply to building yours. You're going to and build a relationship with them. And then secondly, you've made them aware of what your target is. If they like your goal, they're going to help you get there. Realistically, I think I get more calls from people I've talked to who go, hey, I found a deal off market from a buddy. It's not right for me right now. You should take a look at this. It's usually I get a referral from the guy with the 10-unit building for another similar property. But you do that enough times, it's a long game, but it's not that long. Cody and I buy something every 45 days. You just build these relationships, you just keep them going, touch base with people, meet often, and you buy real estate.
Yeah. So say you don't own a duplex on the street. Can you still call them?
Yeah. So the first deal is the hardest, right? Because when you call and you're like, hey, I'm getting into real estate, there's a lot of people who want to get into real estate and a lot of them don't do it. And I know I teach people how to do this. It's like, realistically, people come in and there's a group of people and you can identify people who are going to buy real estate versus people who want to buy real estate in like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
There's just a mindset thing, and some people will do it and some people will not. So generally, when you get started, you make that first call, they're trying to identify, is this one of the people who is going to buy real estate, or is this one of the people who wants to buy real estate? Because they are 2 very different people. That first deal is going to be harder because you have no track record and there's no proof that you can actually pull this off. That being said, this is the best way to build relationships, because if you build a bunch of relationships with people, you book those coffee meetings, they know who you are. The first thing you do when you close that first duplex or that first 12-plex or whatever it is that you buy first,
you let them know.
You let them know, and you thank each and every one of them for the advice that they gave you that helped you get to where you're at. And so if let's say you've done your first 20 meetings, and you can be a small building, you bought your first duplex after 20 meetings. You text those 20 people, hey, thanks so much for meeting. I actually closed a property. It's right down the street from you. I'm super excited. Thank you for meeting with me. That gave me the confidence, or I applied some piece of knowledge. That's going to build so much credibility. And all of a sudden, all 25 of those people are on your side. They want to see you succeed. And they're like, hey, now that you closed that, you need to take a look at this 5-plex. I've been thinking about selling. And it happens all the time. But that is my favorite way to play the game. It's fun. It involves drinking a ton of coffee. I'm from Seattle. That is what we do. We are famous for it. But yeah, it's like you drink coffee, you talk to people, you learn, and then you get rewarded by opportunities to buy real estate. Then you just have to figure out what I mentioned earlier, the deal, then the debt, then the equity.
Yeah. The last 2 minutes there, I think, are super, super valuable. So I appreciate that strategy. And the piece is like, when I give someone advice and then I see them do it, that makes you want to give them more advice. It makes you want to continue pouring into it. Because not everybody, but I know I've met a lot of people and experienced it. Like, you want to continue helping people out and pouring into them and seeing them grow. If you like the person, especially. So if you become this likable person who's soaking up info, appreciates their time, buys them coffee, like do what you can in the moment to help them, and they give you advice, and then you do it and you're successful, like that's just like puts you further up in their mind. Like, okay, this is worth my time. Like, And they kind of feel like they took part in your success because they did. And it feels
Yeah.
great as a person.
Well, I think you, I think it might have been the last podcast that you filmed for, but you've talked to my buddy Caleb Hummel. He's one of my first ever mentees. This is before I had a mentee program. He literally he asked so many questions that we decided that we have to start billing for our time. Caleb's the reason we have the program. It was so fun because he had no skills. I share this all the time, so I know Caleb's okay with me saying this, but I learned that there was an actual level 0. I thought it started at level 1. No sell skills, no real estate knowledge. He's like, I want to buy real estate. I don't have the requisite skills. He kept asking questions and kept trying and kept failing and kept trying and kept failing. He eventually bought 28 units. I think he's about to go under contract for another 24. I just looked at a deal with him that if he lands it, it's one of the coolest assets I've ever seen in my life. But I am so heavily invested in him because he took the effort and asked the questions, and watching him succeed on deal 1, deal 2, deal 3, looking at what I think is going to be one of my favorite deals someone does on deal 4. If he pulls it off, I won't jinx it. It's really fun. And I am heavily invested in his success. If he has a question, I drop everything and make sure that he can do that. And if you get a few people who are just bigger or farther than you, who've already done what you want to do in your corner, it's really, really easy to play this game.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that, went through it with his story. Like, how do you go from DoorDash, I've got no other skills other than I can drive my car and bring someone food, to then owning millions of dollars in property. Like the kind of the story from that. And the biggest piece was having mentorship or partners, because you're just leveraging other people's experience. You're the things you don't even know, you don't know. Just have someone else on your team or in your corner that knows it, that has done it before. And if you have to, pay them. If you don't have to, it's kind of great. But eventually you got to pay someone what their time is worth, and that's okay.
Yeah. And there's 2 ways to do it. Like, there's a lot that we do. Just like when I got started, it's like, if you do the Google Maps thing, I mean, you get a lot of free mentorship, but they're not going to be like a dedicated mentor. Like, they're going to give you advice when you call and ask. There's a difference between coaching and I have a relationship who I can go to for advice. You can build the network for free. And I tell everyone that. My marketing team's like, stop saying that, because no one's going to buy your stuff. Stop teaching people it's free, right?
Well, we're 10 minutes into this, and it's been packed full of value. And this is free. Your YouTube channel's free. There's tons of stuff. It's all out there.
Exactly. Just share the stuff. It's like, if someone wants individual coaching, like I want to go through underwriting on every single deal, you're going to need to, likely, if you're working with someone really good, they're probably really busy. You're probably gonna need to pay for some of their time if you want hand holding. If you want advice, though, or you want to talk strategy on how to play the game, find someone in your market who's done what you want to do and meet with them, because that information is free. I think that is something that people sometimes miss, is they think they have to buy a mentor when they're not at that step yet. Or they just, like, some people just are like, yeah, I'm going to figure it out by myself either way and make my own mistakes. It's like, you probably don't need a mentor if you're going to make your own mistakes. That's fine. Figure out what you want to know. If you want advice and you want access to people, like if you want just general, like, hey, if I have a question, best people are the people in your market, not online mentors or whatever, because your mentor, like if like Caleb's in California, if his goal was, how do I get connected to the best lawyers and property managers in Texas? How the heck would I know? That's not my thing. If he wants someone to help him,
ask people in Texas.
Exactly. So I think the free method is what a lot of people don't do, and it has the best pieces. If you're trying to build your individual strategy, you cannot skip that step. There are people in your market who can help you. You have to have those relationships.
So there's so many ways you could do your first deal, and just getting information from people that are doing deals where you live is an important piece. That was important to me too. But when I first moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, they had just started a real estate club at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And the biggest piece for me that I got out of it was meeting people that are investing in real estate in Chattanooga. And instead of just hearing all these stories and reading these books of people who, bought a bunch of real estate in the 80s and now they're rich, like, cool. But a lot of the principles are the same. It's great. But this guy that, bought a deal 2 miles from campus and made $40,000 and used none of his own money out of pocket, that is information that really gets the gears turning, that I can do this. And that's important.
Yeah. And I think the last piece there is it just becomes more real. Well, this is true when you do anything new, especially as an entrepreneur. There's the like, hey, I believe this can happen. And there's the I'm watching it happen with other people and I know it's real. There's a difference between concept to like, okay, this is going to happen. I think a big piece is when you're just around people who are doing it successfully, it becomes real to you. And that guy that you met in your market who made 40K on a deal using their own money, it's like, okay, especially if you're young and like 40K is a ton of money when you're getting started. It's like, wait, $40,000 right now would be life changing, and I just saw someone do this, and it's in my market. I know,
and it was a refinance, and he kept the property too. So that was like, back in 2020 when that was still possible.
There is a time.
That was 2019 actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. I'd done like the live and flip house hack thing, but I didn't really start investing until 2020 was my first like real investment property. So that's awesome. 2019.
Yeah, that's when I first met people that were actually doing this back then. And that's like, the confidence is an important piece. You got to have confidence to do things that are really, really hard. And the way you gain confidence is being surrounded by, like you can encouragement. Like I've heard that encouragement is just borrowing courage from other people. So this guy's got a lot of courage to do real estate. He's already made money. He's got 40K and still has the house. So that is encouragement that, builds courage and confidence to, well, I could do the same thing. Like worst case scenario, I identify this property, and before I do anything with it, I ask the guy, because we built a relationship. It's not rocket science. I'm actually not that smart.
Oh, dude, that is true of everyone in real estate. I know like 3 people who are like super smart in real estate.
A lot of college dropouts.
Dude, ton of college dropouts. I actually went through the whole college thing, but I'm one of the minority in that group. And it definitely does not make me super smart. If anything, I think the guys are like, oh, wow, wait, I don't need college, and figured that out earlier. Likely the smarter ones.
Yeah. What did you go to college for?
I went to college, funny enough, business management and operations. And
okay,
here I am with 3 core companies doing business management and ops. But I can say for a fact, I have used zero. I'll take that back. I've used one thing for all of my 4 years of college. I had one professor in passing say something that I've kept. We're
gonna save people 4 years. What was the one thing?
Yeah, so the one thing, he's like, this was entrepreneurship 101. He's like, find the thing that you could be the best in the world at, and do that. Like, there's people who are like just pursue their passions, or they go like, oh yeah, like I want to do whatever. It doesn't mean you're going to be the best in the world, but it's like, what is the thing that you actually could win at? Like, you could be the best, whether you love it or you're just like, I'm good at it. Like, focus on what you're good at. And that's what I ended up doing with real estate. And then I fell in love with real estate. But like, when I started, I was like, this clicks, creative finance clicks, math clicks. And I've only ever been good at sales. So I'm like, okay, we have a thing that is high on sales negotiation. It's the largest asset class in the world, is real estate. It made sense to me. I was like, I could be really good at some aspect of this. And as we started playing the game, what presented itself with my relationships, as I met my primary business partner, Cody Davis, was creative finance. I watched how he built his thing. I'm like, this clicks. We could be the best at structuring deals that are simple, repeatable, and outside of conventional finance. That is the thing. But it took me 8 years after college to find that. I was looking for it because of what one professor said. Other than that, nothing from college, zero value. Okay. So for those who want to skip 4 years, just watch a YouTube video or listen to this podcast for the 1 or 2 tidbits that those who went to college actually got.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you figure out what the one thing is? Like, you spent a while searching for it. If I'm in college and my professor tells me that, I'm not going to immediately go, oh yeah, creative negotiation of buying multifamily assets.
No, it's man, what is the way to describe this? This is fun. I haven't shared this on a podcast. This is new.
I get that a lot, and I'm very proud of it, that I hear the phrase, I've never shared this on a podcast. So Let's go. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So what that does is if you're going, okay, what am I the best in the world at? If you know that is the question, you're actively aware of it when you're going through things. So like my journey, I went out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started, funny enough, screen printing T-shirts. I didn't make this one, but that was like, and then by screen printing, I mean like I was the apprentice. I was the guy cleaning screens for like $11 an hour. I went from that. I saw one of the boxes came in, and it said Sanmar, and I was like, the distributor, someone's selling these. Sales makes more than $11 an hour, I'm pretty sure. I wonder what it looked. I literally called them and went like, "Hey, I saw your name on a box, and I saw that you're headquartered in my hometown where I grew up. I'm trying to get into sales. What would that look like?" And I sold them on giving me a sales job. So now then I was really good there. I got promoted through. So I was like, okay, one thing that I'm good at, I am good at sales and negotiation. I've proved it time and time again. So then I've kind of found a category. And then I fell in love with real estate, and I was interested in the asset class. I'd continually engage on it, and I was finding that I could grasp some of the concepts faster than the people around me. I'm like, okay, so I have an aptitude and a skill for this, and I'm developing a passion for it. And so you just kind of keep chasing it until you really narrow down. Like right now, I think the thing that I am just really good at, and this is between Cody Davis and me, so I don't get all the credit, but as a partnership, I've never seen anyone make creative finance simpler. Like we say the same things all the time, but the pieces, you have two questions. How do you buy it? How do you never lose it? What I shared earlier, like how do you buy it? Deal, then debt, then equity. How do you never lose it? Long-term, cash flowing, fixed rate, debt. We've distilled buy and hold down to buy and don't lose. So I'm gonna say you can't simplify it more than that. And we can repeat that again and again and again. Simple clauses. I don't do anything super creative. I don't syndicate. I don't use subject to, not because they're not viable strategies. It's because they add steps. Simple strategies you can repeat again and again and again to buy real estate. And that ended up being our thing. And I'm like, I can teach this. I can talk about it. I can implement it. We're good at this. It just took 8 years of refining. Take the steps. I'm good at sales. I like real estate. I bought a property, started working for the CoStar Group, so learned commercial. But I think it's just kind of keeping in mind, what am I good at? Where could I compete at? And then actually getting out and competing in those spaces. If you think you could do sales and you're kind of interested, get a sales job and just see how you compete. If you suck, you know that's probably not the thing.
Yeah. You could learn the skills, but what I was going to ask is, how would you make that quicker than 8 years, knowing what you know now?
So yeah, you want to define the goal faster than that and implement faster. That's something that I took a long time to learn, which is why I'm 8 years older than Cody, and Cody and I are in roughly the same place. How would you best implement this? Great question. Okay, easiest way to implement. I'm going to break this down as simply as humanly possible. Time to decision. I knew that I wanted to invest in real estate in 2016. I asked too many questions, and I tried to build too much of the business before going into business. So you need to simplify it into how few steps can I take to go from A to B. If you want to be a real estate investor, and you read a book on it, you're going to see you need a property manager, you need a lawyer, you need your team, you need your broker, you need to figure out your capital, you need to learn how to raise capital, and the list goes on and on and on. It's just like college, actually. Going back to that analogy, let's see how many steps we can add and how many non-related classes you need to take to become a real estate investor. What do you need to be a real estate investor? You need to buy real estate. As soon as you've bought real estate, congratulations, you're invested in real estate. Had I simplified it that much, I would have bought that first duplex in 2016, and I could have bought it in 2016. I read too much and overthought it. That was the big delay. I knew what I wanted to do, and it was either a lack of courage, a lack of knowledge, some combo of the two. It didn't happen until 2020. So I lost the first 4 years right there. You can distill it. You're not going to find it out in 5 minutes. You're not going to sit down and go, what am I the best in the world at? I'm now LeBron. Like that's not, it takes a lot of practice, right? It takes some trial and error, but you can definitely distill it by taking your time to decision-making to a minimum. Go, how few steps can I make between me and my goal? Let's hit the goal and learn along the way. And I think if you take that mentality, they call it a ready, shoot, aim model, where it's like, I know what I want to do. I'm going to fire. Let's see how far we are from the target and adjust, as opposed to ready, aim, fire. Because that aiming takes a lot of time, and I've found it's less efficient as an entrepreneur.
Yep. Yeah, you can. It's kind of sad, but like especially in RIAs, like what is that? What is RIA stand? Like Real Estate Investment Association or Alliance or something like that. I don't know why specifically RIAs, but you meet a lot of people that have been members for 15, 20 years and haven't done a deal yet, which is weird. It's really weird, but there's so many different directions you can go. Like you can wholesale, you can do seller finance, you can do multifamily, single family, you can do sub 2, you can flip, you can do hard money, you can do all these things, and they all work. Every one of them works. That's what messes people up. It's because it makes sense. This works. I'm going to try it. Oh, well, I didn't get success this quickly, and we had another meeting this month, and this guy does mobile homes. So like you can get sidetracked. So just pick a lane. Like what would you say is the best lane to pick?
I'm super biased. My company is called Multifamily Strategy, multifamilystrategy.com. Check it out.
Yeah.
But like when you're picking your lane, like for me, multifamily is really stable. And for the same reason I like mobile parks, because in a down economy, like what are you going to do? Downgrade from a mobile, downgrade from class B, class C. Realistically, class A has some risk because lifestyle can decrease, especially in declines where like tech is the first thing laid off. If you're relying on your Microsoft job for your $4,000 rent in Seattle in a penthouse, I'm sure it's a heck of a lot more than that, but you can't afford that. Other than that, like your standard run-of-the-mill class B multifamily real estate has got to be the most stable. Doesn't mean you can't win in other verticals, but I like that a lot. And then I don't think the financing matters at all. It's find the deal, find the debt, find the equity. You can take these out conventionally. You can take them out with partners. You can take them out by yourself if you have money. I think people should not overthink that at all. If there's an opportunity, like there was for Cody and I on our 38plex, I'm like, I absolutely believe that there is a extra $1 million of upside after we pay out investors on this deal. If you could raise $300,000 to make your investors a 2x on their money and make yourself $1 million, everyone is going to find the money for that deal. If you look at that, you're like, I will find it somehow. I don't care how. I'm going to make my first $1 million. If we close this, you will close it for $1 million. And we did. And we made our first $1 million there. And then we've repeated that again and again on other properties. But like that was one transaction that was on market for 13 years at the same price. We didn't do anything crazy. We just structured
13 years.
13 years. Cody was 8.
Wow.
But it was listed for $2 million. We bought it for $2 million.
Is Cody 22 now? Or
Cody's 20.
Can't do math while the camera's rolling.
No, that's fine. Cody's 23 now.
23. Okay. Yeah. So I would have been 7.
Yeah. So yeah, when you guys were kids and I was a teenager, it's like learning this stuff. This opportunity was there. Now, granted, there's no way it was worth $2 million when it was listed. It was a -1 cap when we bought it. And people get mad. Economist people get mad because like, you can't have a negative cap rate. Based on the
losing money
equation, if it loses money operating, it would be a negative cap rate. For those who want to disagree, they can post stuff in the chat, and this video will do really well.
Comment please.
Comment please.
So let's break that down first.
Yeah.
How did you raise $300,000 for it? Also, how did you raise $300,000 for a deal that's losing money?
Yeah, before debt. So the deal itself had a few problems, and most of the opportunities you're gonna have a problem. The only question as an entrepreneur is, am I the one who's going to fix this profitably? Like someone's going to make money on it, but you have to solve the problem. Not every problem is your problem. This one was our problem. So it's middle of COVID. There's like 1 million programs for government assistance for people not paying. The problem with the building is that they filled it with a bunch of family members and just like homeless people who have not paid rent. So their collections were less than 66%. We had a little under 1/3 of people actually paying rent, but it was mostly occupied. Then we had units that needed to be renovated that we had the cash flow to renovate out of the rest of our just general business. So I was like, okay, we can do this out of cash flow. Once we fix the collections, the building will pay to renovate the units, and then you lease it, and all of a sudden it's making a lot more money. So that was the big one, is how we're going to fix the income problem. The other problems were the units that needed repair, and it had some electrical and plumbing issues, but they were future problems. They were passable. They just weren't, like, you knew they were going to fail at some point. So we went in and said, okay, this is the opportunity. The first thing that we can do is we can fix the income, and we can fix the income within the first 3 months. So we negotiated lower payments for the first 3 months. Within the first 30 days, we had almost every single one of the non-paying tenants on government assistance. We used our first round of rent checks to come in, because the owners had never done any maintenance on this property. Knocked on every single door. What maintenance can we do? How are your appliances? And then we shipped in all the new appliances on the same day, so that everyone on that campus saw the new owners care. Not that we have a bunch of money, not that we're doing major CapEx. The broken fridges got replaced. There were people in there who couldn't afford a toilet seat, and the owners never fixed it. So you had like seatless toilets. It was disgusting.
Wow.
We came in and just did things like replace the toilet, replace the fridge, fix the stoves, bring in new stoves. Half the non-pays just started paying. The other half we were able to get on assistance programs. We brought the collections from like 31-ish% to 90% in the first 30 to 60 days, which made it super cash positive. So that's how we fixed it. You also asked how we raised the money. Yeah. We just pitched that vision of, there's a simple method to this, 3 steps. First, don't tell people about the math first, because no one cares. No one cares. People want to buy a deal. People want to own, especially investors, like passive investors. They want to be part of a project, and then they want to know how their money's safe. So step 1, explain what the opportunity is. There are 38 units available with 200 feet of highway frontage for $55,000 a unit in a market where multifamily is selling for like $135 a unit. So immediately there, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, price per unit there. There's obviously something very wrong here, which is point 2. You take everything that's wrong with it and you tell them that's the reason you're buying it, because it's true. That's the opportunity. This is an excellent asset, except for the roof, the electric, the plumbing, and the tenants. Which usually gets a laugh, but it's like, here is our plan to fix it. We are the group to fix this. This has been on market for 13 years. Everyone has missed this. I know we can do this. This is how we're going to fix it. When stabilized, this is what the math is going to look like. We're going to have a return of X conservatively. We're going to get cash flow up to Y. And here it is. Right now, the books are absolutely garbage. And we know that, and we're aware of it. And this is why we have the opportunity that we have to pick it up this low. We asked 4 people for $100,000. We needed a $300,000 raise. 3 people said yes. 1 person said no. We'd never raised capital before. Cody had done a little bit on one deal, but never raised this much capital. Never really attempted a capital raise. Never worked together on a project. It took 4 phone calls. We got it completely funded in one day, and the deal did astronomically better than we had projected.
Wow. So the fact that it was on the market for 13 years and no one bought it, that didn't make you immediately say, oh, there must be something terribly wrong. It won't make sense.
It was, let's figure out what's wrong. And is that the thing we want to fix? And then that's how you pitch it on the problem every time. With real estate, there's always something wrong. If you just pitch something to someone, you go, hey, this deal's the best thing ever. We love it. There's no problems. There is no way I'm giving you my money. You've missed something. That just tells me you're an inexperienced operator.
I would have thought, oh, so many other creative people smarter than me have looked at this and said no, so it's not worth my time. That's probably what I would have said. But
see, that's the thing. People don't look at
that's probably what everyone said. That's why. And
I know
nobody ended up looking at it.
We buy all the time on market. Like I shared at the beginning of this how we buy off market, but that's 60% of our deals. The other 40% on market listings that have been there between like 100 days to 13 years. Everyone's looked at it. Everyone's passed on it. The owners still want to sell it. There's some reason they're still listing it. And they're either hoping for some idiot to pay too much, or they're just like, I'm not hitting whatever my goal is. So you learn what their goal is, then you write a plan to it. That where you get stuck is majority of people either one are just using the bank to acquire, which means you cannot negotiate the balloon, the interest rate, the terms are locked. You just get to negotiate on price. So that's a huge one. The other thing people do is they'll raise capital. So take like a syndication. They'll raise capital often prior to their deal, which means the debt structure has set parameters on. We've already promised investors X percentage. We have all these restrictions on the money that we place. We've raised at X cost. We have to do some type of deal. We have deals where the cash flow is really low day one, but there's huge equity growth. We don't have payments to those investors. We have like a 2-to-1 buyout in 5 years, double your money in 5 years, but we get all the cash flow throughout those 5 years. Like that's a debt structure you can do. You would never pitch that to someone without a specific deal though. That makes sense because that's just a weird structure. But if you have an opportunity where it's like, we're going to get this at a stupid price, but the rents are really low and we're going to raise them up slowly over time. We actually love our tenant mix. Your entire compensation is going to be a large buyout in the future. And if we fail, you get all of our equity. So you get all these things at the fantastic price 5 years in the future. You can do crazy deals that are really simple, but they're abnormal because you start with the deal first.
Yeah, makes sense. So that's how you get an asset. How do you never lose it?
So long-term cash flowing fixed rate debt is the first and most important thing. And I'll break that down into its pieces. So let's start with cash flowing. I think that's the most important. People buy things for equity growth and they go, hey, it doesn't make money today, but it'll make money later. If you're wrong, you just lose. You can only buy so many cash negative deals and then you run out of money. Cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. If you don't have cash flow, game over. Get paid to wait for appreciation. So cash flowing, most important. Fixed rate. Boy, I've been saying this for 3 years, and it's funny because
now you're right.
In the last year, I'm like, wow, I look like a hero. This is just basic economics. You don't want variables. If you have a great debt product, variable rate means you might not have a great debt product. There's no reason ever to do that. So for me, you get cash flow, you lock it in with a fixed rate. And then if you have this phenomenal debt product, so say you overpaid for a property, but your debt product made it just ridiculous and it's worth it. Long-term debt, the term of that excellent debt is the value. Like as soon as that debt's gone, that was the cool part of your deal. So it has to be long-term debt. The longer term the awesome debt product is, that whatever you negotiated, the better it is. That's the whole thing. Long-term, cash flowing, fixed rate debt. It has to have all three of those. If it has all three of them, almost impossible to lose a property.
So how do you get more cash flow if a deal doesn't have any? I mean, you kind of explained it, what you did with that deal, but what's like because you have a property management company, operating the deals is your thing. Like what are things you do to get more cash flow?
So let's say it's property's a little bit overpriced, but you can get a great interest rate. It still doesn't cash flow day one with the interest rate that you're able to negotiate. Well, or it's really low cash flow. Well, one, it's gonna be hard to raise money because you're gonna have to do a structure like I mentioned earlier, where you pay out an equity multiple later, and it's usually going to be a lot more expensive than if you just paid monthly payments in interest or distributions. Another thing you can do, Caleb invented this, and I love this model. We've done the lower payment things. It's what we did on our first thing, where you have 6 months of lower payments and then it scales up. Caleb did no payments. We call it the Hummel hack for Caleb Hummel. My favorite play. He's done it on multiple deals. It doesn't cash flow day one. I need to get the rents up. It's going to take me 6 months to get the rents up. I'm just going to you just pitch like, I'm not going to pay any mortgage on this for 6 months. It doesn't accrue. It doesn't. It just literally is like, I can give you your price. I can give you your interest rate. You say yes to everything they gave you. So if you've negotiated everything out, they're like, hey, I want $1 million. I want 7% interest. I'm fine with the 10-year note. And I want us to close in a month. You can just say, yes, I am absolutely down. All of those things work. The way this is going to look is I can start making those payments once I get the rent up. We will take it over. You'll get the down payment on the property. In 6 months, those payments will start. But you say yes to every one of their terms. It is hard to decline that when they dictate the terms and you say yes to all of them.
Yeah.
And you just give this is how we'll get there, because I can't lose money on the way.
We didn't even talk about that. But the part that's so cool about that is if they say no and you walk away from the deal and everything falls apart, it's going to be another 6 months before they close anyway, and they're just not going to get paid for 6 months.
It is.
So it makes sense.
Strategy. Yeah. Caleb just took our strategy on that 38 of they wanted $10,000 a month payments. That was the thing. No one ever offered it to them. No one ever asked what they wanted. They wanted $10,000 a month to retire on.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, okay, well, as we're scaling up, we really can't go beyond 7 until we fix the corrections. So we just had 6 months at $7,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And then it scaled up, and Caleb listened to that and then took his own practical application. He's like, okay, well, if I can't do that, what if I just don't have payments? So he just banked. And these are like, mid-sized multifamily deals. There's some actual money there.
Mm-hmm.
He just banked all of the mortgage payments. And then by the time he hit month 6, he's like, well, the property's made more than I thought they would. So I just have like a huge reserve.
That's not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah. By the time he started paying his mortgage, the tenant's rent was renovating all the units. And so he got a bunch of renovated units just out of his deal structure. He basically got to start with per transaction. He did 10plex and an 8plex with that. He got like 2 free renovated units in each building just based on deal structure. And again, remember, the main thing is simplicity. That is a very simple custom clause.
Right. It's not like doing something like that with the bank would be so complicated. But this is literally like, I'll pay you this price over this amount of time. This will be the monthly payment. I can't make that monthly payment until obviously the rents are high enough to pay you. Like, they know where you're going to pay them from. Like, I'm not coming out of pocket. Like, the property, it's an income producing property. So it just makes sense.
Hard to get to know on the
I will increase the income so I can pay you more money. Not everyone's going to say yes, but like it makes sense.
And there's one more piece of psychology. They were the owner of the property. So you're aligning outcomes with objectives. They want higher, you want high enough income to pay them. They now feel like they're invested in the property, right? Because you're like, I have a metric I need to hit to pay you. They can look at the numbers pretty easy. And you're like, okay, if this person pulls this off and they increase the rents, my collateral's now gone up. Like, the asset makes more. So it's good for the collateral. And now It's like, as the property does better, I start getting paid, and I get paid at the rate that I wanted to because I said yes to this. It's so easy to get a yes to. I just thought it was a genius strategy, but that is one of many ways you do like a basic tweak. It's kind of that Rob Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad way of thinking of, instead of what makes it work, or like asking how.
It's instead of I can't do this, it's how can I do this?
Yeah, it's not the deal works or doesn't work. It's like, how does it work? And sometimes it's not negotiating lower interest. Sometimes it's negotiating the correct staircase to get to the interest that they wanted.
Yeah.
Like, could the deal sustain what they want? Let's pitch them what they asked for with a path to get there, as opposed to just locked in terms day one.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason they would say yes is because it'd be very easy for them to get the property back if you stop paying them.
Oh, yes.
So so they know, like, okay, 6 months, we're not going to get any payments, but then we're going to get everything we want. This person buying my property is going to do everything he can to make sure he can make those payments.
Yes.
If he doesn't, we just get 6 months of work put into it to increase the income, which hopefully it's at least going to increase. Ideally, it gets high enough that he can pay me what we want. Nothing's a problem. Worst case scenario, they do everything they can to increase their rent. They can't pay me. I take the property back, and now it makes more money.
Exactly. And if you want to do it at the 201 level, you can do these transactions. There's 2 pieces of paper you can do it on. You can do it on a land contract, or you can do it seller financed. I think Caleb actually did his. They were conventionally seller financed. Without going super deep into each of them. Titles conveyed a little bit differently. It is easier for an owner, like the prior owner, who's now the seller financer, to foreclose on they don't even foreclose. To take back the property on a land contract, they can do it through non-judicial foreclosure if you fail to adhere to the contract. So if you miss a payment, they can take the property back without having to go through the whole court process. It is a good, in my opinion, it is, if they're worried about like, oh, I just don't want to have to foreclose on it, it's really easy to pitch them on like, okay, let's do this as a land contract. That way, if I miss a payment, it's going to be very, very cut and dry for you to say, hey, it's a breach of contract. You get the property back without having to go through the full foreclosure process.
What's a land contract?
So land contract is also called contract for deed or a sales contract. The podcast friendly way to say this is like to conceptualize it. Your car payment. Bank continues to hold the title. You get the title after you pay it off. That is basically what a land contract is. You both show up on title. You as the owner have equitable title and the seller holds legal title. So you have all economic control over the right to sell, operate, manage, collect rent from the asset. But they hold the legal title, which is usually an escrow, which is transferable as soon as the contract is executed. In a seller finance transaction, it is exactly like a bank deal for a piece of real estate, which is like a general. You go to the bank, you get the deed backed by a deed, a promissory note and deed of trust. So there's a prom note that says I promise to pay, and it's backed by the deed, and you are the only one on title. That would be a judicial foreclosure to take, land contract, but they operate the same way. If you ever get confused on it.
So it's instead of a lien, which now if there's some finance, there's probably also a lien, but they're just on title with you instead of.
There's actually no lien created.
Okay, no lien created when they're on title with you.
Exactly, for the land contract, yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So that might be too, if you guys are listening to this, I apologize if that's too heady. The easiest way to think about it is seller finance is like the seller is the bank on your house, and a contract for deed is like the bank on your car. That is the easiest way to conceptualize it. Who's holding the contract and how do they get it back?
It's funny because all the real estate financing makes more sense to me than buying a car.
I know, but for most people, they can wrap their head around it. They're like, if I don't pay my car payment, they don't foreclose. They just send someone to take it. It's exactly like that. It's in the seller's favor on that front. But it's another clean way, easy way to do it. Also, if you're trying to do something where you don't place a lien on title, you open up some different debt options on contract for deed. Those are the main things. And for those who are into subject to, that is a clause on a contract for deed. That is how you're circumventing the bank. Also, why I'm not a fan of subject to, but that is specifically, it is a clause in that type of contract.
Okay, that's fascinating. You can like really get in the weeds with a lot of this stuff. Is all of that? Do you need to know all of that?
No, you don't. You need to buy. Find a deal and then figure out how to close it. Use the tools you have. I would have put Caleb's on a land contract. He put his seller financed, and it completely works. There's no reason it wouldn't work. He just needs to keep making his payments, or the seller's gonna have to go through a foreclosure process. And I've seen his cash flow. He's gonna be making his payments.
Yeah, because it's like you can have one strategy. You kind of just use like a hammer. You hit everything. Yeah. You hit a screw. You hit a bolt. You hit a nail. But sometimes you can just have a strong enough hammer that it works.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. But my main thing is just buy the real estate, figure out how to close it, and you're going to figure out new ways to play the game as you play. Don't worry about the home run deal where it's like, oh, everything was perfect. I made no mistakes. It's not going to happen. Buy something where you know it's going to cash flow. Operate it, and the next time you do a deal, you're going to go, oh, you know what? I should have structured the interest like this. I should have added this extra clause, and you add it to your next deal. That is the difference between me getting to 4 units with 2 duplexes where they're both just like stellar deals, and getting to whatever I'm at now. I think it's like 150. Cody counts them. We trade stuff around too often where I actually lose count all the time, but we'll say 150 multifamily units. I got there in less time than it took me to buy my first 2 rentals because I stopped trying to keep everything completely optimized. I went I know this will work. I've hit all those foundations that we just laid out through this call. It's going to cash flow, long-term fixed rate debt. I put everything in the right order. I'm never going to lose the property. Let's just keep buying real estate. And then as the business grows, I come back and I tinker with stuff. I tweak stuff. I add addendums to contracts. You can do so much in the future because the fun thing with operating agreements and contracts is all of them can be amended. Like you can fix things retroactively if you didn't do it perfectly.
That's true. As long as everyone agrees, then in the way you're doing it, you're really building a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking about this on the podcast with Caleb, and hopefully I have a video to prove it by the time this comes out. But we're gonna go skydiving with the guy we just bought a 10 unit from, seller finance, no money down.
No way.
Yeah, so it's his idea. Funny story. So we negotiated the whole deal at Applebee's. And then I don't remember how it came up in conversation, but he's like, we're going to go skydiving once this deal closes. And yeah, so we're going to go skydiving with this guy that we bought a deal from. Seller finance, no money down, 0% interest. And it's great, amazing story.
Dude, okay, so I haven't seen those terms yet. I have never negotiated both 0 down and no interest simultaneously. I've done both individually. That's a rare thing. How do you guys feel about the price? Like, I have so many questions. Okay, how is the price compared to what it's actually worth? Because you can get super creative on that. And then, how long is that debt product? Those are the two questions I have.
So, kind of how we came up with it was not really. We kind of use different terms than you guys use. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Shane So, who I'm going to have on an episode here soon. He told me exactly what to say. So I bought a duplex from the guy back, probably 5 or 6 months before we bought the 10 units. And he was just selling his portfolio. He was done, had a, successful career flipping houses, buying real estate. And he just bought a house on a golf course, ready to retire, play golf and fish. That's what he wanted. And he had just sold like a bunch of properties, and he didn't want to sell these 10 because of the tax bill. He just wanted to kind of spread it out over different years, and he just wasn't ready yet. So I said to him, we'll give you that price. He wanted $1 million for 10 units in the Chattanooga market. 100,000 a door is a fair price. I would think the bank probably wouldn't like that price around the time we were doing it. Which is why it was good that we did it this way. But I agreed with him. I would, if I owned it, I would want 100,000 a door, and totally like no issue with the price. So $1 million.
So price works, but maybe mildly over market price.
Right. Yeah. $1 million. I didn't have any issue with the price, and I know we can make it worth more than that. 100%.
Absolutely.
So I just did the math backwards. He was bringing in $750 per unit, so $7,500 a month. Take out taxes, insurance, expenses, lawn care, whatever. Figured he's probably putting like $4,000 a month in his pocket. So I said, we'll give you $4,000 a month. You make the same amount of money you're making now, except we take over the property and we take over the expenses. If the roof needs to be fixed, the air conditioner goes out, that's on us. But we're going to fix up this property, make it look real nice, make the financials look good. And in 5 years, we can take it to a bank, get you the price you want, pay you the rest of the money when you want it too, because he didn't want the money yet. So we're kicking the tax down the road for him a little bit. We're able to fix the property and make it worth more, so that you want this price, I have to do this to get this price. That exactly like you said. So that's the deal. $4,000 a month, principal only. And then at the end of 5 years, when we've paid off $240,000 in equity, and we only owe him, what was it, $760 now? And then we've increased the value. We got a pretty nice spread. We can decide what to do with it.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. And it got him exactly what he wants.
And that's the thing. That's the deal, that equity thing. It's reverse engineering. It's what are we trying to build, and then let's work backwards from there. People try to get all the pieces to build it before they know what they're trying to construct. You did it all in the right order. Simple, easy. Dude, that's awesome. And he said it's a 5-year balloon?
5-year. Yeah.
Okay. Midterm debt. Debt. That's not bad.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, like, got him what he wanted. It made sense. Everyone was happy. And I posted about it. People were like, oh, you ripped this guy off, all these things. I'm like, no, he still texts us. He invited us to his pool party. He's going to go skydiving with us. I'm going to post a YouTube video when we go skydiving, but,
that's going to be fun. I've never
Yeah, there's
gone.
another thing I wanted to say, and it just lost me, but it'll come back. It's gone. All right, we'll keep going. It'll come back. It was related to like how people get the best outcome, so it happens. But you guys get the point.
Oh yeah, yeah. You want to make sure all the incentives align with the goals, and you've done that. You've hit all of his goals. You've hit all of your goals. I mean, slam dunk deal for you. That's phenomenal.
I think
And
so.
yeah, and for him, yeah, that seems to hit the big things. If his big thing was tax deferment
Yeah, and he
and
wasn't
price,
quite ready to be done with it. Oh, this was the other thing I was going to get at was what's their plan for the money when the sale happens? If they're going to take the $1 million and he'll put it somewhere and make 3%. Like I would imagine he's making more than that by us giving him $4K a month. Someone can double check me, but like like he's going to make more money in retirement from doing it this way than to take the cash and put it somewhere safe.
It's just a great deal. Win-win deals. Zero down's awesome because I that's in the budget.
Yeah, we paid like $6,000 in closing costs.
Oh, okay. So this isn't zero down. No one can afford that.
Yeah. Well, Caleb told me that he did his 0 down and made the seller pay closing costs and commission to the broker, and I thought that was cool.
Caleb's hilarious. He is he became a good negotiator because he literally didn't know anything about negotiation. So all he knew how to do was just communicate.
What makes sense to him.
Yeah, he's like, it's not that he doesn't negotiate the other person's stuff in. He doesn't even know what to ask. He's like, I just know that I need this, so I'm just going to ask.
Yeah, we need to pay the broker. We need to pay the title company. I have no money. You pay it.
It's funny. I would on some of those I'd be like, I don't know if you're going to get that term every time. But like that was his first 2 deals were the same thing. It was the same structure. He's like, I just don't have the money yet. Now he starts to offer more of those things. I looked at his new deal. He's covering a lot of the cost because that's the thing for that seller. He's like,
he said
I don't want any fees.
He was going to the closing table with $300 in his bank account, and he had to pay you guys for coaching.
Do you know what's funny? I never called him out on this. Well, I've made fun of him, but I've never called him out. It's like
he said it on the podcast. His card kept declining.
It would decline every 2 of every 3 months. I never bothered him about it. I appreciated that he was making things happen. But man, that was funny. I'm like, how do you not have $300? Go DoorDash.
Well, that's a great story that you can get into real estate when you don't have $300.
Yes, and he played the game for he's like a year, maybe a year and a half. I don't think he's a year and a half in. I think
he said 8 months ago he bought his first deal.
My goodness.
Whatever time before that he started working with you guys.
I can say for a fact he has $300,000 or $300 in his bank account. Like he has his $300. I looked at his cash flows. I looked at some of his business stuff. It's like he made his business. I thought it was a year or more. He made his business in 8 months, and he lives off that. He still doesn't have a job, but he doesn't DoorDash anymore. That's ridiculous. He just talks about real estate and buys real estate. That's all he does. And he went basically straight from high school. I think he did 2 months of college, dropped out. Ridiculous. It's completely repeatable. If Caleb can do it, anyone can do it, because that is a true starting from ground zero.
Absolutely. I talked about the point, he didn't have any income producing skills other than I can drive a car and bring you food, and went from that to owning real estate.
Yeah, and he has one other skill that he might not have shared. I've not seen people with the amount of tenacity he has. He used to be a baseball player, and he was not even all that good apparently when he started. He just out practiced everyone. Rumor has it he was number 3 or 4 in the state for a while, but he's very good at a bunch of sports. And he's like, I have no athletic talent organically. He will outwork everyone. And so he did have that going for him. And I think that is the difference between him and basically everyone else at his age with his skill set. He just wanted it more, and he made it happen. So if that's you, then yeah, you
Go to multifamilystrategy.com.
sure, or just just go buy something. Like you can play this game. That is the difference between those who have real estate and those who don't. Is there is a grind, especially to get your first deal done. That is usually just going to be a grind. It rarely ever falls in your lap. But once you get good at it, it's kind of like breathing. You're just like, okay, there's some opportunities. How do we put it together? I know what it needs to be. I put the offer in. They say yes or no. If they say yes, we close it. It's very easy when you know how to do it, but to get there, like no one does it without a ton of practice. I'm curious with you, Tim. How long was it to your first deal? From when you decided I want to buy to when you bought something?
When it was very serious, like actively looking, we're ready to buy something, is 6 months.
Okay.
But I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and looking at properties on Zillow when I was like 16. So it was 4 years from then. But found the right partner. We said we're going to do it. We're going to buy real estate. This is our intention. It was like 6 months. We bought 48 units.
Yeah. That sounds about standard. I think most people do it within their first year, but most people will give up way before they hit their 6 months. Like astronomically, overwhelmingly, people will give up like 2 months in.
Yeah. It's
I get calls
really
from
hard.
people all the
It's really hard to work for 6 months and not make money.
Yeah, which as an entrepreneur, it's like 6 months without money. Like that's the most normal thing in the world. Stuff take. It's like you made money in 6 months. What the heck?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. A lot of things that I see people work on don't make money in their first year. But as someone who grew up in the go to college, get a 9 to 5, that is just insane for people. Just being like, so I keep working, but I'm not instantly rewarded every 2 weeks.
Right.
That's
So you
hard
can
for people.
change your life and the course of history for your family in 6 months. You just probably won't get paid along the way. You might.
Yeah.
Some people do it quicker, but
Caleb took 9. Caleb took 9 months. I took 8 years from when I decided I wanted to do stuff in real estate where I'm like, I want to own a rental property. But from when I like locked in, and even for me, it was COVID, like everything shut down. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm an outside sales rep who can't go outside. That's just absolutely dumb. When I made that decision, I think it was like 5 or 6 months for me too. I think that's probably the average. I've seen people do it in 3, but it's like 3 to 9 months, I think, is what it takes to get your first deal done. If you're just like, I'm going to focus on this and get it done.
Yeah. Well, great advice all through the whole podcast. I just wanted to ask if there's anything specific you wanted to leave that we haven't covered, and then we can wrap it up here.
I'm going to, instead of leaving something new, I'm just going to reiterate, because this is where I got stuck. It's where most people got stuck. If your goal is to invest in real estate, just remember to buy a piece of real estate. I started with a duplex. Cody started with a 12-plex. Start in multifamily. Skip the single family if you can. Highly recommend. But if like you want to be a multifamily real estate investor, don't focus on anything other than I'm going to buy a property that cash flows. If you can do that, you're going to learn so much. It's going to get so much easier.
Good. What is your goal?
My goal, which is always shifting. So my first goal is to retire my wife. And that was a 2-year goal. And we hit it in 11 months, which was awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you. She actually works in our property management company.
Retired her and put her to work.
Yeah, exactly. She loves her job. She talks about that a lot. She's like, because it's optional, by the way. I'm like,
yeah, no, I know.
I was like, you don't have to do anything in this company. I'm fine with whatever you want to do. She's like, I want to help build the businesses. And she is absolutely like all of our maintenance coordination, which is a lot for what we buy, is all run through her. She does so much and she loves it. So getting to do what you want to do was the goal. She absolutely does not have to work in the company, but she decided to, and it's what she wants to do. That was goal 1. So hitting that made me go, okay, well, if you hit that in 11 months, you have to come up with new goals. My biggest 2 things are, 1, I would like to move to Texas in the near future. I am financially able to do so. However, if you start multiple businesses in Washington State, you cannot just tell your employees to figure it out and disappear. There's actually some systems doing that I have to do. So I am in that process right now of stabilizing a few companies and making sure that everything is in order, and I am able to work in and out of state. And then my other main goal is, this is really simple to do, and I have seen a lot of terrible advice online. I want to teach as many people as humanly possible how simple it is to buy real estate. Get out of the whole stupid YouTube marketing thing where you see a million videos of all the secrets of your financial. Like, there's no secrets. It's super easy. There's no concepts. It's a lot of work, but like conceptually, it's really easy to buy real estate. I want to just destroy all those gurus online who are like, there's an individual strategy that will change your life. It's like, no, just like learn a few strategies that work and then implement them and then buy real estate and be done. So that's my big goal. I want to see if we can't just change the internet and make the escape the 9-to-5 easier for everyone. Because I don't think it's that hard to do.
Great. Where can people find out more about you, get in touch with you? What's the best place?
Best place to get in touch with me is my Instagram at Christian Osgood. I'm blessed with a unique name, so that helps. So literally just at Christian Osgood. I go through my DMs all the time. So if you want to message me, that's where to do it. If you want to learn how to do everything that Cody and I built for free, go to our YouTube channel, Cody and Christian, Multifamily Strategy on YouTube. And if you want to streamline everything in a course or mentorship or just learn more about us in general, go to multifamilystrategy.com.
Great. Do it. I appreciate your time, Christian. And if anyone is still listening at this point, I appreciate you listening. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. See you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for tuning into the Student of the Game podcast. If you listened all the way to the end, I would love your feedback. The best way to connect with me is to reach out through Instagram. Leaving a thumbs up or a review on whichever platform you're tuning in from will really help this podcast reach more people. So if you found it valuable at all I can ask is that you would do that for me. Thanks. Until next time.